Fires of nuclear fission. Chain reaction. What are the good implications of chain reaction of nuclear fission? First of all, it is an alternative to natural resources. Nuclear power plants serve as a good alternative to fossil fuel and coal power plants, where natural resources, coal, oil, natural gas, are used for energy production. With these natural resources depleting, nuclear power plants will be a good replacement to supply sufficient energy for the world's increasing need of energy. Moreover, it reduces the greenhouse gas emission. Unlike other energy production methods which emits greenhouse gases, nuclear power plants generates only heat and nuclear waste. This reduces the threat of global warming and improves our air quality. Moreover, by burying the nuclear waste deep underground, we can be kept safe from nuclear radiation. Besides that, chain reaction of nuclear fission is a longer-lasting energy production method. A given amount of uranium-235 can produce 3.7 million times as much energy as that of coal when used in nuclear power plants. On the other hand, what are the bad implications of the chain reaction of nuclear fission? First of all, there exist disruptions in plant operations. A natural disaster or unpredictable incident that disrupts the plant operations may lead to catastrophic impacts in the neighboring areas of the plant. Take for example, the Fukushima disaster in 2011, where a major earthquake and tsunami disabled the power supply and cooling of 3 reactors, and caused a nuclear accident. The accident led to high volumes of radioactive releases and the evacuation of over 100,000 people from their homes. Besides that, the chain reaction of nuclear fission takes high cost. It is estimated that one nuclear reactor costs about $2 to $9 billion USD. Besides the construction of reactors, many resources have to be pumped into precautionary measures and training of personnel for proper maintenance of the plant. Last but not the least, there is shifted mindset in our generation. From past incidents, people have been led to believe that nuclear technology is not foolproof, and that the risks of nuclear power plant may outweigh the benefits. Therefore, many are seeking other less risky alternatives such as solar and wind energy to generate power. Is that possible for Singapore to have nuclear power plant? Presently, Singapore relies on oil, gas, and coal for the generation of energy in the country. The importing of natural resources is associated to the high cost of electricity in Singapore, which is about 3-5 times more than what people pay in the US. Furthermore, the burning of natural resources releases a significant amount of greenhouse gases that is harmful to the environment. This also poses several challenges to the pledge of limiting the yearly GHG emissions that Singapore has proposed to achieve by 2030. To lower both costs and GHG emissions, Singapore can consider using nuclear power plants to generate power. Is it feasible to have nuclear plants in Singapore? To consider if a power plant should be built in Singapore, we will first need to evaluate the benefits and risks involved. One of the obvious risks of a power plant on mainland Singapore is the large exclusion range that will be required when the reactor suffers a meltdown. The size of this range is so huge that it will render our entire island uninhabitable should the disaster strikes. Furthermore, it is highly costly to build the plants and properly train personnel capable of operating the systems. This, however, is not to say that having a nuclear power plant in Singapore is entirely impossible. Should Singapore choose to build nuclear power plants, it will decrease the reliance on imports of natural resources and save costs in the long run. Other solutions to the large exclusion range include building the plants offshore on barges, or underground. In the case of expensive and limited land space, it is also possible to keep in mind the idea of collaborating with neighboring countries to build a nuclear power plant on a neighboring island. Should Singapore consider nuclear energy? A study was conducted in 2010 to see if nuclear-based electricity was a feasible alternative energy source for Singapore. In 2012, it was concluded that the risks outweighed the benefits of the alternative energy source. One of the main deciding reasons was the large exclusion zone needed in times of reactor meltdown. Thus, to conclude, it may not be a right time now to set up nuclear power-based electricity in mainland Singapore, though the idea has not been scrapped. In 2014, the government set aside $63 million over the span of 5 years for the Nuclear Safety Research and Education Program. This program aims to train personnel in areas of radiochemistry, radiobiology and risk assessment. Although we may be able to reduce the risks associated with nuclear plants, a lot more time will still be needed to train personnel and gain more expertise in this area. Hence, nuclear power may well be a suitable energy source for the country in the future. That's all, folks.